If someone had told me a year ago that I would leave my entire fortune to the man who cheated on my daughter, I would have laughed in disbelief. But here I am, ready to tell a story that sounds like fiction, but is painfully real. It all started when I discovered the truth about my daughter's relationship. The man she loved, trusted, and built her life around had betrayed her in the worst way. It was devastating, not just for her, but for me as a parent. The natural instinct would have been anger, rejection, and perhaps even cutting him out of our lives forever. But instead, I did something that shocked everyone. I made him the primary beneficiary of my will. Why would I do such a thing? It's not because I condoned his actions or wanted to reward betrayal. In fact, quite the opposite. This decision was a carefully considered choice, a lesson wrapped in forgiveness, an unexpected path to healing. I won't sugarcoat it. This journey has been painful, confusing, and at times lonely. I faced criticism from family and friends who couldn't understand why I would do such a thing. But my reasons are deeper than the surface. They involve a complex mix of love, justice, and an unconventional way of confronting pain. This story is about betrayal, but also about redemption, about how sometimes the most surprising decisions come from the heart, even when the mind protests. As I share this story, I hope you'll see beyond the scandal and understand the human emotions and intentions that drove my choice. Because sometimes the hardest acts of forgiveness are the ones that change everything. I'll never forget the day I found out. It was a regular afternoon when a close family friend, someone I trusted deeply, pulled me aside with a serious look on their face. The word that followed hit me like a punch to the gut. "He's cheating on your daughter." At first, I refused to believe it. There was no way the man my daughter spoke about with so much love and hope could betray her like that. But the more I listened, the harder it became to deny. I felt a mix of disbelief, anger, and profound sadness. How could this happen to my little girl? How could someone she trusted so completely hurt her so deeply? I confronted my daughter gently, hoping she would deny it or that there had been some misunderstanding. Instead, she broke down and told me the truth. Her boyfriend had been unfaithful. The pain in her voice was something I'll never forget. For days, our family was shaken. We tried to support her, but it was clear that the betrayal cut far deeper than any of us expected. It wasn't just about a broken relationship. It was about shattered trust and a loss of innocence. But even in that darkest moment, I knew something had to change. Not just for my daughter's sake, but for all of us. I realized that anger alone wouldn't heal these wounds. If anything, it could make things worse. So I made a choice to look beyond betrayal and understand the full story, to seek a path that would lead not just to justice, but to healing. This painful truth was the beginning of a journey none of us expected, one that would challenge everything we thought we knew about love, forgiveness, and family. When the news first broke about his betrayal, it was easy to paint him as a villain, the cheater, the betrayer, the man who broke my daughter's heart. And in many ways, he was all those things. But the story, like most, wasn't so black and white. I knew him before the scandal. He wasn't perfect. No one is. But there were qualities that made him worthy of more than just condemnation. He was charming, intelligent, and had a way of making people feel seen. He worked hard, had dreams, and showed a genuine affection for my daughter when things were good. That's what made the betrayal so hard to swallow. It wasn't just about the act of cheating. It was the gap between who he appeared to be and the reality. I started to dig deeper, not to excuse his mistakes, but to understand the man behind them, what led him down that path. Was it recklessness, desperation, or something else? I spoke with people close to him, friends, co-workers, even family members. What I found was a complex person, struggling with his own demons and insecurities. He had made terrible choices, but he wasn't beyond redemption. This realization didn't erase the hurt, but it planted a seed of possibility, a chance for growth, for change. It also made me question how we define people by their worst moments. Can someone be more than their mistakes? Can forgiveness open a door to healing for everyone involved? These questions haunted me, but they also guided the decisions I would soon make. Because sometimes, to truly heal, you have to look beyond the surface and see the whole person, even when it's hard. The impact of betrayal didn't just stop at the surface. It ran deep within my daughter's soul. Watching her struggle through this heartbreak was one of the hardest things I've ever faced. It was more than just pain over a broken relationship. It stirred up old wounds and family secrets we hadn't confronted in years. My daughter had always been a strong, resilient person, but this experience tested her in ways none of us anticipated. She wrestled with feelings of worthlessness, confusion, and anger. She questioned herself, wondering what she did wrong, why she wasn't enough, and if she'd ever be able to trust again. But there was more beneath the surface. During this difficult time, old family dynamics came back to light. Secrets and unspoken tensions bubbled up from the past. Unresolved conflicts between generations that suddenly seemed connected to her pain. I realized that the betrayal she experienced wasn't isolated. It was part of a larger pattern of hurt and misunderstanding that had quietly shaped our family for years. As a parent, it broke my heart to see her carry this burden alone. I tried to be her rock, but I knew she needed more than just my support. She needed healing, therapy, and a space where she could unpack these layers safely. We started attending family counseling together. It was messy, uncomfortable, and at times painful to confront these buried issues. But it was necessary. My daughter slowly began to reclaim her sense of self. She found strength not just in overcoming the betrayal, but in understanding the family legacy she was a part of and deciding which parts to leave behind. Her journey reminded me that love is complicated. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it forces us to face truths we'd rather ignore. But it's also the thing that can save us, if we let it. When the news of the betrayal broke, our family was split down the middle. It was like a fault line appeared overnight, shaking the foundation we thought was solid. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Some people chose sides, while others stayed silent, unwilling to get involved. The divide was painful. Some relatives blamed the man outright, calling him selfish and unworthy. Others quietly questioned my daughter's decisions, wondering if she had ignored red flags or been naive. The silence from a few felt like a refusal to acknowledge the pain altogether. At family gatherings, tension hung thick in the air. Conversations that used to be light and easy became charged with unspoken judgments. I found myself caught in the middle, trying to be both protector and peacemaker. This division wasn't just about the betrayal itself. It was about loyalty, love, and the complicated ways families process hurt. I saw firsthand how people's own fears and biases influenced their reactions. Some couldn't handle the messy truth, so they simplified it into right and wrong. Others stayed quiet, hoping the issue would disappear. But pain doesn't just vanish because we ignore it. I realized that the real challenge was not just repairing my daughter's broken heart, but also healing the fractures within our family. I made it a point to reach out to those who felt hurt or confused, encouraging open dialogue. It wasn't always welcomed, but it was necessary. Because if a family can't navigate its darkest moments together, it risks falling apart entirely. This divide taught me that betrayal affects more than just a couple involved. It ripples through every relationship connected to them. And sometimes the hardest part of forgiveness is rebuilding trust not just between individuals, but within a whole family. Forgiveness is often seen as a simple act, just letting go and moving on. But in my case, it was far from simple. When I decided to forgive the man who cheated on my daughter, it wasn't because I dismissed what he had done or because I wanted to erase the pain. It was a deliberate choice, made with eyes wide open and a clear plan in mind. I realized that holding on to anger and resentment would only hurt my daughter more, and the rest of our family too. Forgiveness, I believed, could be a powerful tool for healing, but only if paired with accountability and boundaries. So, my forgiveness came with conditions. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about creating a path forward that encouraged growth and responsibility. I wanted to see genuine remorse and a willingness to change. I wanted the man to understand the depth of his betrayal and its impact on everyone involved. And most importantly, I wanted to protect my daughter and our family from future harm. This meant I couldn't simply sweep the past under the rug. I needed a plan that would balance compassion with caution. I worked closely with trusted advisors to develop a strategy for how to handle the situation, both legally and emotionally. Part of that plan involved a surprising decision to make him the beneficiary of my fortune. Many people were shocked, confused, even angry at this choice. But to me, it was a way to hold him accountable while offering a chance for redemption. It was a risk, a bold move that challenged conventional ideas about justice and punishment. But sometimes the most radical form of love is to believe that people can change, even when they've made terrible mistakes. Forgiving with a plan was my way of saying, I won't let this betrayal define us, but I also won't ignore it. I'm choosing healing, but on terms that demand honesty and growth. It's easy to define someone by their worst mistakes, but people are rarely one-dimensional. After making the difficult decision to forgive, I felt compelled to look deeper, to see the man behind betrayal, beyond the cheating scandal that had rocked our family. What I discovered surprised me. He was more than just the sum of his wrongdoings. Beneath the mistakes, there were qualities that showed a different side of him, a side that hadn't been visible when the pain was fresh. For starters, he was deeply remorseful. The guilt he carried was heavy, and though it didn't erase the hurt, it showed me he was not indifferent to what he had done. I also found him to be genuinely hardworking. Despite the chaos in his personal life, he committed himself fully to his job and to rebuilding his reputation. He showed kindness in small but meaningful ways, especially toward those in need. His generosity wasn't flashy or self-serving. It was quiet and sincere. Talking to people who had known him before betrayal revealed a man who had struggled with insecurity and poor judgment rather than malicious intent. Of course, these qualities didn't excuse the betrayal, but they made it clear that he was capable of growth. Seeing this complexity helped me understand why forgiveness was possible and why I wanted to offer him a chance to prove himself. Because true forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about acknowledging the whole person and believing in their potential to change. One of the most controversial parts of this entire story is a decision I made in my will. I knew that leaving my entire fortune to the man who cheated on my daughter would raise eyebrows and spark intense questions. So I wrote a letter. A letter meant not only to explain my decision, but to reveal the deeper purpose behind it. In that letter, I laid out everything: the betrayal, the pain, the family struggles, and ultimately, my belief in forgiveness and redemption. I explained that the fortune was not a reward for his mistakes. It was a challenge, a responsibility that I hoped would push him to become a better man. I wanted him to understand that this inheritance was more than money. It was a test of character. Would he squander it like the careless person he'd been? Or would he rise to the occasion, using this gift to rebuild trust and make amends? I also made it clear that this decision was about protecting my daughter's future, not just financially, but emotionally. By placing him in a position of responsibility, I hoped to create a dynamic that forced accountability and growth, rather than denial or avoidance. The letter was honest, raw, and heartfelt. I wanted him, and everyone else involved, to see that this wasn't about vengeance or punishment. It was about transformation. When the letter was finally read after my passing, it stunned the family and the man himself. The weight of those words lingered, sparking conversations that went far beyond the usual inheritance disputes. That letter became a key to understanding my intentions, and it laid the groundwork for the healing journey that followed. The day my will was read was one of the most intense moments anyone in the family could remember. The lawyer sat at the head of the room, carefully unfolding the documents, while everyone waited, breath held, to hear the final wishes. When it came to the part where I left my entire fortune to the man who had cheated on my daughter, the room fell silent, stunned into disbelief. The lawyer, a seasoned professional who had handled countless estates, visibly paused. His expression shifted from routine formality to something closer to shock. Turning to the man, he said, "You're the sole beneficiary of the estate." The man blinked, his face a mixture of confusion, disbelief, and something else, maybe regret or guilt. He hadn't expected this. None of us did. As the lawyer continued reading the letter I had left behind, explaining the reasons and intentions, the man's composure wavered. He looked down, fidgeted, and then, for the first time, spoke up. "I don't understand why you would do this." His voice was quiet but laden with emotion. That moment was pivotal. It forced him to confront not just the inheritance, but the weight of my decision, the challenge embedded within it. The rest of the family reacted with a mix of anger, disbelief, and confusion. Some whispered about injustice, others about the radical nature of forgiveness. But for that man, it was the beginning of a reckoning he hadn't anticipated. The lawyer's surprise mirrored the shock of everyone else. But more importantly, it marked the start of a new chapter for all of us. After the will was read, and the initial shock began to settle, an unexpected moment brought past and present crashing together. The man, still grappled with the reality of his inheritance and the letter's meaning, requested a meeting with my daughter and me. I wasn't sure what to expect: resentment, anger, silence. But when we met, the atmosphere was tense yet strangely hopeful. He spoke first, admitting how overwhelmed he was. "I never imagined I'd be given this kind of responsibility," he said, eyes downcast. "I don't deserve it, and I don't know how to handle it." My daughter, surprisingly, was calm. She said, "This isn't about what you deserve. It's about whether you're willing to change. That's the real question." We talked for hours about pain, betrayal, forgiveness, and the future. For the first time, the walls between us started to crumble. He shared his regrets and fears honestly, and my daughter expressed her hurt and hopes without bitterness. That meeting was a turning point. It showed that even the deepest wounds could begin to heal when people are willing to listen and be vulnerable. It was a reminder that past mistakes don't have to dictate the future, and that reconciliation is possible, even when it seems unlikely. That day marked the start of a fragile but meaningful relationship, built on honesty and a shared desire to move forward. After our unexpected meeting, I witnessed a roller coaster of emotions in him: confusion, anger, and deep reflection. The inheritance and the letter had shaken him to his core, forcing him to confront parts of himself he'd long tried to avoid. At first, confusion dominated. He kept asking, "Why me? Why would someone do this for me after everything I've done?" It was clear he struggled to grasp the magnitude of forgiveness offered to him. But soon, that confusion turned into anger, not just at the situation, but at himself. He was angry for betraying my daughter, for hurting the family, and most of all, for disappointing the person who had shown him an unexpected kindness. Yet, amidst the anger came moments of reflection. Slowly, he began to acknowledge his faults and the consequences of his actions. He realized that this inheritance was more than money. It was a chance to make amends, to rebuild trust, and to grow as a person. This process wasn't easy or quick. There were setbacks, moments when he wanted to give up, and times he pushed his way out of guilt or shame. But over time, he started taking small steps toward change, seeking therapy, reaching out sincerely to my daughter, and taking responsibility for his mistakes. His reaction showed me that true transformation is complicated. It involves pain, struggle, and the courage to face oneself honestly. Forgiveness isn't a one-time act. It's a journey. And for him, that journey had just begun. In the aftermath of betrayal, my daughter faced one of the hardest challenges anyone could endure: learning to forgive someone who hurt her deeply. It wasn't a linear path. Some days, the pain felt unbearable. Other days, small moments of peace surfaced. Forgiveness for her wasn't about forgetting or excusing what happened. It was about reclaiming her power and refusing to let bitterness define her life. Slowly, she began to understand that forgiveness was a gift she gave herself, not just a man who betrayed her. She worked through her emotions in therapy, unpacking layers of hurt, anger, and confusion. She found support in friends and family. But most importantly, she found strength within herself. The decision to forgive was transformative. It allowed her to release the heavy burden of resentment and open herself to healing. It also gave her the courage to set boundaries, choosing what kind of relationship, if any, she wanted with the man who had once betrayed her. Her healing journey inspired those around her. It showed that even in the darkest moments, there's a path to hope and renewal. Through forgiveness, she reclaimed her voice and her future. She showed us all that healing isn't about the absence of pain, but the presence of courage. Her story is a reminder that forgiveness can be the bridge from brokenness to wholeness, and that sometimes the strongest love is the one we offer ourselves. After months of tension and division, something remarkable began to happen. Our family slowly started to mend. The betrayal that once threatened to tear us apart became the catalyst for healing and reconciliation. It wasn't easy. There were lingering resentments and unresolved feelings. But through honest conversations, family therapy, and a willingness to listen, we began to bridge the gaps that had formed. One by one, old grievances were laid bare. Family members who had taken sides started to understand each other's perspectives. Those who had stayed silent found their voices. Slowly, the walls between us crumbled. We learned that healing requires vulnerability, showing up with open hearts, even when it's uncomfortable. It means forgiving not only those who hurt us, but also ourselves for the pain we carried. As the family reunited, we created new traditions and memories. We celebrated small victories, like my daughter's progress and the man's sincere efforts to change. This journey reminded us that families aren't perfect, but they can be resilient. The strength to forgive and move forward is what binds us together, even after the deepest wounds. Our story became one of hope, that even in the darkest times, love and understanding can light the way. The man who once shattered our family's trust began an unexpected transformation from the depths of his mistakes. He started to rise, not just as a beneficiary of my fortune, but as someone determined to earn redemption. He took the responsibility of the inheritance seriously. Instead of squandering the wealth, he invested in causes close to our family's values. Charity supporting education and mental health, areas that had deeply affected us all. His actions spoke louder than words. He openly acknowledged his past wrongs and committed to rebuilding relationships, especially with my daughter. He wasn't perfect. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, but his persistence was genuine. This transformation wasn't just about money or reputation. It was about becoming a better man, one who could face his flaws, learn from them, and strive to make amends. Watching this change reminded me that people are capable of growth, even after the worst mistakes. His journey from betrayer to benefactor became a powerful testament to the power of forgiveness, accountability, and the human capacity for change. This whole journey taught me more about forgiveness than I ever expected. It's not a simple, one-time act. It's a process filled with struggles, setbacks, and moments of clarity. Forgiveness isn't about condoning bad behavior or forgetting the pain. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of anger and bitterness. It's about choosing to heal rather than stay broken. I learned that forgiveness requires courage, the courage to face painful truths and give others a chance to grow. It also requires boundaries and accountability. Forgiving someone doesn't mean allowing them to hurt you again. Another important lesson was the power of perspective. When I looked beyond the betrayal to see the person beneath, it changed everything. It allowed room for empathy and hope. I also realized forgiveness can ripple through relationships, healing more than just immediate wounds. It can mend families, rebuild trust, and inspire transformation. This story showed me that forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts of love there is, love that frees, heals, and restores. Forgiving the man who hurt my daughter was one thing, but protecting her future while doing so was an entirely different challenge. Forgiveness didn't mean I was going to leave her vulnerable or expose her to more pain. It meant balancing compassion with protection. I made sure to set clear boundaries and legal safeguards in my will. The inheritance came with stipulations designed to secure my daughter's financial stability, regardless of how the man chose to handle the fortune. I worked with lawyers to craft these conditions carefully. Beyond finances, I supported my daughter emotionally and mentally. I encouraged her to seek therapy and to build a strong support network. Forgiveness was her path to healing, but it didn't mean she had to forget her worth or sacrifice her well-being. I also maintained open communication with both of them, making sure my daughter felt safe expressing her feelings and concerns. Protecting her future was about more than money. It was about ensuring she had the tools, support, and agency to rebuild her life on her own terms. This experience taught me that forgiveness and protection can coexist. We can forgive others while fiercely safeguarding the ones we love. Once word spread that I had left my entire fortune to the man who cheated on my daughter, the community's reaction was swift and loud. Gossip spread like wildfire, fueled by shock, disbelief, and judgment. Neighbors, friends, and even distant acquaintances weighed in, many condemning my decision without understanding the full story. Some called it foolish. Others said it was unjust to my daughter. Rumors twisted the truth, turning it into a sensational tale that overshadowed the real reasons behind my choice. The media even caught wind of the story, adding their own spin and speculation. Suddenly, our private family matter became a public spectacle. This external pressure added another layer of difficulty for my daughter and me. It was challenging to stay grounded when so many voices doubted our intentions and motives. But amidst the noise, we found strength in each other. We focused on what mattered, healing, growth, and moving forward. The community's reactions reminded me how easily people jump to conclusions, often missing complexity behind tough decisions. It also showed me the importance of staying true to your values, no matter how much criticism you face. In the end, the rumors couldn't overshadow the journey of forgiveness and transformation that was unfolding within our family. Change is never easy, especially when it comes after deep betrayal and mistrust. But something remarkable happened. There was a clear turning point when he truly began to transform. It wasn't one grand gesture or a sudden epiphany. Instead, it was a series of small, consistent actions that showed he was serious about making amends. He started taking responsibility, without excuses. He apologized openly and didn't shy away from difficult conversations. He engaged in counseling and worked hard on his personal growth. More importantly, he sought to rebuild trust slowly, knowing it wouldn't happen overnight. One moment stood out vividly. He organized a community project in honor of my daughter, something that symbolized healing and hope. That event brought people together and showed that he was committed to positive change beyond just words. Witnessing these efforts softened hearts within the family and community. Slowly, skepticism gave way to cautious optimism. This turning point proved that with accountability, humility, and determination, even the deepest wounds could begin to heal. It reminded us all that transformation is a journey, one marked by perseverance and genuine intent. When I made the decision about my will, I knew that the inheritance was only part of the story. The legacy I wanted to leave behind went far beyond dollars and cents. More than anything, I wanted to leave a legacy of forgiveness, accountability, and growth. I wanted my family and anyone who heard our story to understand that even when life breaks you apart, there's a path to healing and reconciliation. Money can build comfort, security, or status, but it cannot heal wounds or mend broken relationships on its own. It's the values, lessons, and love we pass on that truly shape our legacy. By giving my fortune to the man who made terrible mistakes, I aim to challenge old narratives about punishment and justice. I wanted to prove that redemption is possible, and that sometimes the most radical act is to forgive and empower. I hope this legacy would inspire others to look beyond anger and hurt, to embrace compassion, and to believe in second chances. In the end, my greatest hope was that the story of our family would be remembered not for betrayal, but for courage, the courage to forgive, to change, and to love despite everything. As our story comes to a close, I want to share what the future holds for all of us, a future built on healing, hope, and new beginnings. The road hasn't been easy. We face pain, betrayal, and skepticism from others. But through forgiveness and effort, we found a way forward together. My daughter continues to heal and grow stronger every day. She's learned that her worth isn't defined by others' mistakes, but by her own courage and resilience. The man who once betrayed us has become a symbol of change, not perfect, but committed. His actions prove that even the deepest wounds can begin to heal when met with honesty and accountability. As a family, we've rebuilt trust and forged bonds that are stronger for having been tested. We understand that healing isn't a destination, but a lifelong journey. Looking forward, we hold on to hope that people can change, that forgiveness can transform, and that love can overcome even the darkest moments. This story isn't just about what happened. It's about what comes next. It's a testament to the power of second chances, the strength found in compassion, and the promise of new beginnings. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May it inspire you to believe in healing and to find hope in your own story.